Hey guys, we got some crossover GB footage here. It's my guild Shockwave up against WolfReich. This is the finals of crossover GB, and we're competing in gold group. So this is for first place in gold group, which means competing for 9th, and the loser will get 10th overall. And really, I think both of these guilds deserve to be in diamond group. The way that the pairing system works really screwed both of us in prelims. We both lost to Wolfpack, and in relatively close matches, they did a little bit better against Wolfpack than we did. But either way, we both ended up in gold group and competing against each other in the finals, which is about right, at least for the final situation. But I think in prelims, you know, the way it turns out, Wolfpack is pretty much guaranteed the win now because there's nobody that can really compete with them at all. I think, in particular, WolfReich is incredibly strong. They feel stronger, actually, than Wolfpack. And that's not just because now they have knighthood. I think overall they probably should have won the battle that they had against Wolfpack in prelims, but I don't think they had quite figured out their strategy yet. You know, I talked to Asher about it, and we had a fight against Wolfpack after they did, and so Asher was very helpful and helping me sort of figure out you know, what would be a good way to approach that battle, and we did much better against them than we had ever done before, and I think that's largely due to the fact that Asher really tuned into what was going on in crossover GB and a really sound strategy. That said, I think Wolfpack is probably ahead of everybody. You know, they are very OP, they have a lot of strong players, but at the same time, I think they were just like with that extra step ahead of everybody else as far as the strategy for crossover GB. And anyway, so yeah, I think these guys obviously deserve a win, and at some point I think they're actually going to overtake Wolfpack unless Wolfpack really does something big, acquire Ray 7 somehow. I don't know. I think Ray is sort of a loner in her own guild somewhere, so I don't know if that'll ever happen. I've never seen her in Wolfpack, so we'll see. But here, you know, we get wiped out. You saw the tanks go really, really quickly. They have their top players, Lilbish, Fielendale, Kenshin, and Asher in the tanks at first. So eventually some of them get out of the tanks or lose the tanks somewhere. Probably just leave their tanks at some point. And start hitting the totems as their players, not with the tanks. But losing those tanks early on is already pretty bad news for us, but we just have to keep on trying to push for the totems. At the moment we have 2. The points haven't quite gone out yet. I don't know how they have 200 extra points on us. Maybe one of our players grabbed a tower and they destroyed it. If you claim a tower and then your opponent's tanks destroy it, they gain 200 points, so it's really better in most cases to just leave the towers alone, leave them gray and unclaimed, and nobody can gain points from them that way. So you really just have to focus on the totems. It also allows you to not think about allocating resources or allocating people into the towers. You can just leave them alone and focus on other things, and you know, not be spread so thin. Here I was using Shock to just sort of stall Asher and try and keep him busy. He was really being very aggressive in the tank, so it was pretty hard to deal with. There's Kenshin as well, eating up a lot of players. A bunch of us sitting there. He throws an AoE and we're in big trouble. I tried to attack him, but he managed to finish me off before I could get him. I think about 3 hits, maybe. From the tanks is about my max against these stronger players. If a little player in a tank tries to attack me with it, they have to strike me quite a few times. So really having big players in there is very helpful. There's Safeka, he says, "Hi Iliatan, I'm your fan." Well, not really a fan, but I've seen your videos. So some odd wording there, or a very choice word. In my opinion, but funny nonetheless. So I just say hi. But he ends up messaging me later, and he's like, "Guess who?" And I guess he had messaged me during this crossover GB or right after it because I had no idea what was going on. So some people, you know, I get plenty of Facebook messages from you guys and whatnot, but I don't have like direct links between the people who message me on Facebook and who they are in the game, obviously. And so he's trying to get me to guess. I sort of figured it out from the video just because he was the only person talking in current chat for the most part. Anyway, and so he tries to get me to recall the conversation that I had with him, and I've been through this with people before, and it never seems to go very well. I don't have a fantastic memory, and also people try to, like, get me to remember things with the wrong details. And so he's like, oh, I told you that I like the videos and that I watch your, your YouTube channel. And I was like, okay, well, like, not to sound cocky, but, a lot of people say that to me, and people are very sweet, and, I've really appreciated all the viewers and stuff that, the people who say hello. Sometimes I get to them or not, but I still appreciate that everybody is sweet enough to want to say hello and like the videos. And and then he was like, so obviously that wasn't enough to jog my memory, and he was like, oh no, but, like, I told you that you sound like a man, and that I thought you were a guy, and I was like, well, as it turns out, that's also not specific enough, because I would say maybe like 50%, that might be a conservative estimate, of the people who watch this channel seem to think that at like some point think that I'm a guy. So I either have to tell you that I'm not, or I have to, apparently my laugh is the only thing that sounds really girly. So, I don't know, but anyway, I found it really funny that he was trying to jog my memory with all of these details that people say to me frequently. So if you guys really want me to recall the conversation I had with you, you're gonna have to make it, like, extra memorable and not bring up things like, how many valence do you have? When are you gonna make Odin? I thought you were a guy. And details like that. But anyway. It's nice that people want to chat with me, I suppose. Here, I'm up against Asher. Asher complained to me at the end. He was like, oh, I only got one fight with you. And, so I guess this is the one fight. His kid has a hefty damnation. The only level 6 or higher skill that I have on my Oracle is the Centauria, and turns out that the Centauria does not improve until like level 8 or something, because it's been at 7% for 5 turns for like 3 levels now. So that was really disappointing, but I think the damnation probably does go up in strength. So that might be one worth investing in. I would not bother with the Centauria like I did, so that was a big mistake on my part. Here, Durango in to support me. And see if he can fare even like one hit from Asher. One Water Delphic. The Water Delphic is not too crazy, so we'll see. Nope, doesn't make it. Poor guy. But yeah, so against Asher, I mean, I had a Guardian Rune there. I probably would have died, actually, if I didn't have the Guardian Rune. But I wasn't at full health. But against Asher, it's a little bit better. One, I have a lot of MDef. He's using Frigo, which is also magical attack. So I'm faring quite a bit better against him. Against Little Bish, it's a pretty hit or miss. If I have a Guardian Rune, it might be okay with some of the bigger hits. But he's critting for a lot, and that Fire and Electro pet does do a ton of damage. My dimensions here are very so-so. It was Steel Wars week, and so towards the end of the week, I was like, oh crap, we have crossover GB. I should probably throw on some dimensions for that guild. And I scrambled to do some, but wasn't able to do too much. Once it's Steel Wars week, I get really lazy. If there's not a big PvP event or crossover GB, the rewards are sort of complete crap actually, and so I don't really bother to think about it too much. Usually it's just whatever dimensions I put on for the other PvP events, so like Chaos War and Class Wars and Titan War. But here would have helped a little bit had I had better dimensions. But it was Steel Wars week, and I think these guys probably don't have great dimensions either. I don't know about Lil Bish, but Asher was also like, my dimensions are crap, so we're not doing too great. There, caught a little bit of a fight with Shock, was with Evil Arrow, but not one of the super tough opponents. I was talking to him at the end, and Arrow was saying that he wasn't getting crazy opponents, and that he thought that most of the people were going after me, and maybe also Robin as well. But Evil Arrow is, definitely the highest BR tune. It's a little bit hit or miss, I think Arrow and myself probably deal with different people better. So, I think overall he's actually, a stronger toon than myself. My defense is considerably better. I have a lot more Forge BR. So he has more Tattoo BR, he has Knighthood and all of that stuff. But for whatever reason, he's really behind on Forge materials. So I don't really know what happened there, if he's just not doing enough weekly stuff. He's a busy guy, so he might just be missing things. But he doesn't have a ton of defensive Holy Forge. He seems to be caught up on the offensive ones, but his defense just really needs some work. So I think once he gets, builds up all the forge materials, he'll be okay. They're taking another big hit. I think that was WolfReich again. There's somebody saying Evil Arrow, one mean fighter. He's got that big Thor on. He's got big stats. He's sitting around 9 million BR around there, so very tough to deal with. Nice to have him on our side. We do have a couple other players in my server that have Knighthood. Grimmith got it, but his stat-wise is considerably lower than most of the other people with Knighthood that we've seen so far. So I imagine, he's much stronger than he has been recently. He once upon a time was Balnor's top warrior, stronger than myself as far as the toon goes. But he seems to be cashing up again, so I don't know what's going to happen there. Maybe we'll see a really strong Grimmith again. And then Hottie has also gotten it, but I haven't really gotten a chance to fight either of them much. So you're up against WolfReich again. I would like to get into Sylph mode. Seem to dawdle a bit, trying to heal and things. I should just go straight into Sylph mode there. Even though I have the Guardian rune on, I should have just gone, because I'm much better protected in Sylph mode than I am in class mode. Yeah, so I'm just gonna get... Oh, wow, that didn't do too much. Oh, well, that's confusing. Why did one of those hits do so much and the other one did barely anything? And so Pekka again talking in current chat saying that if I marry him, he'll come to Shockwave. So I don't know exactly how the logistics would work for him to come over to my server and join Shockwave and make any sort of meaningful contribution. Here's Shock up against Feelendale, another one that has Knighthood and looking considerably stronger. He has been in Mage Class Wars, the Warlord's Hall section, quite a bit lately, and so I think he's really making his way up. Class Wars should be interesting this month. Ray and myself both don't have Knighthood yet, and Ray doesn't seem to be making a ton of progress with the tattoos at the moment. So we're definitely going to see some different names up at the top. Ray and I can probably fare okay against some of the people with Knighthood, but the top players with Knighthood, like Chili, is a shoo-in for first place. I mean, if he doesn't get first place, it's going to be due to a very, very tragic deflect. I don't know any other way he could lose at the moment. Here, got some support this time around. Robin joining the fight, and after this, I was just like, oh, I wish I wished Robin could be my kid, and I just have her follow me around and fight with her. It'd make my life so much easier. But no such luck. Wouldn't that be great if you could just have another player be your little support kid? She could keep her name, and I'll just rename my toon Batman. We'll take over Gotham. She's also using a Dark Sylph, which I tend to prefer for crossover GB. Sometimes you just get into those solo situations, and it's a bit easier to use Dark. Otherwise, I would probably bring Freya. Really, who the hell is grabbing the towers? We do tell people to not take the towers, and people get frustrated when people do end up not following instructions and taking the towers. We do lose points that way, so some get a little bit more frustrated than others. Yeah, so there's one victory against WolfReich's Thor. Of course, have Robin's help, which I don't get all the time, since both some of the top players. You know, you don't see me fighting with Evil Arrow and Robin very much, just because, you know, we have to spread out our power a little bit. At the moment, I actually have 3 totems, but I mean, for the most part, we're never down like, you know, 4 you know, it's not 4 to 1, or I guess 1 to 4 in totems very often. Usually it's 2 to 3, but you know, it really does add up. You know, you go through enough timers and point distributions, and you lose the lead. We're behind about by, you know, 3,000 points at the moment. Shock getting into another fight, getting some support. I mean, the opponent getting some support. Here's Tassin with a water sylph. He's always had that water sylph. I used to borrow it quite often for his stealth expedition. A little concerned. I don't think this. Yeah, the Guardian Rune didn't get rid of my chaos, so I only went through 2 turns, which is always a little troublesome when you get into sylph mode. So yeah, when I'm chaosed and in sylph mode, you know, awakened with a dark sylph, I tend to go after Devour Soul, because then at least if I hit one of my teammates, I get a good chunk of HP. It sounds really cruel, but it's true. Wish I had taken out Wolfreich's support. Would have made things go a little bit better here, but whenever he has a mage or, you know, water sylph support, that's very difficult. You know, with the Thor, he doesn't have fantastic survival. You know, Thor is not a sylph where you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like live a really long time. But when he has teammates that can, you know, do the support for him, it's a bit rough for me. There he is. So I think that was Shock Chain. You know, I saw the skill flash, but it was very, very quick. So he's reduced my MDef, which that's never a good situation. He has all magical attack skills on his sylph, so well, except for Infernal Inflammation. So I showed that, and he showed his Class Wars footage, and he has a nice setup on his Thor. But there, he gets screwed really badly and hits Midori for a huge crit, and Midori deflects. And so I was having a good giggle about that. He got deflected, which is always the humorous part, especially about Thor, because they hit so hard, they're single target. You get one good deflect, the person's dead. And so, so yeah, that was pretty funny. And then WolfReich says such crap. He's not as nearly as entertained by that deflect as I am, clearly. Here, some familiar faces. Northwest Tower. And now I think I start bringing Shock around. Maybe? Yeah, I started bringing in Shock for support. For a while, I had really kept her separate from myself, and I don't know what my logic was at first, why I kept her away from me. It would be better, you know, so many of those fights probably would have gone better had I just brought in my in-game wife to support me. But I wanted to be able to sort of keep an eye on the tanks and everything with her. I think that was the main reason, but I really should have just brought her into the fights with me more often. So now what I tried to do is, you know, claim the totems, you know, use Shock as a fight support, and then claim the totems, and try to attack the tanks with Shock. So I'll claim the totem and then attack the tanks with Shock. Well, there, the tank kills me, but and then try and get a fight in the totem so that we keep it claimed. And that works okay for the most part. In general, we're just at such a huge disadvantage as far as power goes that things are not working out too well for us. I mean, at the very least, both sides probably are capping out at 30 or so players, and so we're both spread pretty thin. I mean, it's very, very difficult to cover 5 totems in this event. You need a huge advantage, you know, like, you know, just the other team has to be so much weaker than yours to consistently keep 5 totems at all times. So for that, you just have to, you know, find whichever one is going to be the easiest to keep, and just, you know, poke around and try and get low-hanging fruit. and get a win there, and then yeah, immediately use Shock to go attack the tank. Unfortunately, it's Asher's tank, and so she's not going to last long. But for now, I can just stay there on Ilya and keep the totem. Somebody does me the favor of attacking me, so that does keep me in a fight while we have the totem claimed. I doubt that's part of Asher's strategy. They should probably just wait there until a tank comes and kills me, but they go ahead and attack me anyway. Didn't quite catch the score there. But yeah, again, they don't keep super OP players at the totems. We've seen Lil Bish who can deal some damage there, but for the most part, their top players are in the tanks and supporting that way, and then the other players are really just there to get into long fights. Oh, poor Shock. Not in a good situation there. Now up against Lil Bish and the rest of the crew. That's a recurring fight. I don't know how many times I've seen those same players. So yeah, Lil Bish and Kenshin both in that guild, so they have the 1 and 2 for the archers last month in Class Wars. There's Lil Bish's shock chain, so he's going to reduce my MDef. So I need to get into Sylph mode and use like a rune or something to get rid of that shock chain. Oh, a little late. Let's see. Crits me for 518k that time, so I think I managed to shake off the shock chain by the time he did that, and then I fare much better because I'm in Sylph mode. So that's really how you reduce the damage. When he hits me when I'm in class mode, it's just bad news. Then again, he just like auto-attacked or something. Or it looked like an auto-attack, but it might have been a real skill for like 800k or something, so. Rough. It's just me losing to a lot of Knighthood players lately. Actually, Titan War didn't go too bad. I'm voicing this over after Titan War prelims, and that didn't go nearly as horrid as I thought it would. So we manage. This person in a bit of trouble if he doesn't get help very soon. I had Shock's Wind Ranger set up. I don't know if I did that or if I just left it as whatever Shock had on it at the time. I'm not sure if that was the best choice. Might have been better to just bring her Sanctuary Hunter and just put Incendiary Shot on it and just reduce the damage that the opponents deal. So that might have been a better choice, but I didn't think about that. Sometimes I'm like, why does Ray keep on Ray 7? That is, keep using the Sanctuary Hunter, but always seems to work out well for her, so maybe he's a better kid than I thought. So very nice job to my guild, or people doing as best they could. That was a really tough battle, and WolfReich did a great job. So big congratulations to them for winning Gold Group. That's the standings on the right. So for Gold Group, WolfReich comes in first, and we come in second, and Crit Rhyme comes in third. And then out of the top ranking stuff, obviously Wolfpack won, and then Notorious and Exodus coming up in second and third. So yeah, that's it for Crossover GB for now. A new session probably won't come up for another, I imagine, probably like a month or two. They don't, they leave us waiting for that quite often, which with me is okay. It's, there's already a lot of PvP stuff going on. I do sort of wonder, because I think couple wars or, eternal wars for the couples, we've seen stuff about that for I don't know how long, and they still haven't done that event, but it is supposed to be slotted for Saturdays, or at least at the same times as Crossover GB, so I don't know if they're going to finally do that tournament and, flip-flop them eventually. I think that was the intention, but so far nothing on that front, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you later. Take care, and have a very good day.